Hey mama, are you feeling overwhelmed? Like no matter how hard you try, you're still not the mom you know you were meant to be? I get it, and I'm here to tell you you were designed for more. And together, we can get you there. Welcome to the Nature to Nurture podcast. I'm Tiffany, an early childhood specialist, advocate, and mom on this journey with you. I've spent years supporting families and working with children in those critical first 5 years of life, where every moment counts. But here's the thing. The same caregiving practices that help 0 to 5-year-olds thrive are the very same practices that help us, as adults, live purposeful, connected, and thriving lives. It all begins with intention, mindfulness, and showing up for ourselves and our kids. In this podcast, I'll help you discover simple tips and practices for raising your little ones with intention and care, while also guiding you to become the caregiver that you've always wanted to be, the one that you dream of. Each week, I'll share stories from my own life, some practical strategies, and research-backed insights to help you slow down, reconnect, and find joy in the everyday moments. Whether it's creating a bit of time for unstructured play, setting up your nurturing routines, or taking care of yourself as you care for your kids. This is the place for you. If you're ready to embrace the kind of motherhood that feels aligned with who you truly are, be sure to follow the podcast, leave a review, and join our supportive community. We are here to lift each other up every step of the way. All right, Mama, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Nature to Nurture podcast and another episode where we're going to talk about parenting with purpose, connecting with nature, and finding the beauty in the chaos of the everyday life. I'm really glad that you're here today because we're going to be diving into something that I know many of us struggle with, including myself. Finding mindfulness when life feels like a never-ending to-do list. And let me tell you, this one hits close to home because, well, I am still trying to figure it out. I have learned some game-changing strategies that have really helped me to show up for what matters most, my family, and I am excited to share them with you, and I'm excited to continue to work on this together. I know it's actually one of my prime goals as I'm getting ready to head into that Thanksgiving week. So grab your coffee, grab your tea. I'm on my 4th cup right now. Sorry if I'm talking quickly, but let's jump in. All right. We are going to go back to 2023 when I was the director of a preschool, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was my dream school, my dream job. I loved the kids. It was my purpose. It was what I was meant to do. And on the outside, I'm sure it looked like I had it all together. But on the inside, I was falling apart. And maybe I didn't look like that on the outside either, because I had a few great friends who said to me, "Hey, what's going on? We're noticing something," right? I remember it was Christmas season. It was supposed to be this magical, family-focused time, but instead I was overwhelmed, I was stressed, I was in a super deep pit of depression, and I was giving every single ounce I had to my job. The final straw came when I had to reschedule the preschool's Christmas performance so that I would be able to attend my kids' Christmas performance. And great, it's okay, I figured it out, it was going to work. However, guess what? My kids' performance ended up getting rescheduled. I don't know why it got rescheduled, but it got rescheduled. And it got rescheduled for the exact same day that I had already rescheduled the Christmas performance for the preschool for. And I mean, that was a sign from above, right? I had to miss it. I had no other option. I had to be at that Christmas performance. And that moment right there broke me. I realized that my family wasn't getting my first. They weren't getting my seconds. They weren't even getting my leftovers. They were getting nothing but a few crumbs. And that's when I said, enough is enough. I made one of the hardest decisions, but also one of the best decisions of my life. I put in my notice and left my dream job to really refocus on what really mattered: my family. Now, don't get me wrong. It hasn't been all rainbows and butterflies since then. Setting boundaries, prioritizing family, and actually being present, that is still a work in progress. But it's a journey that I guarantee you is worth taking. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you a couple of the things that I did during those first few months, during that first year, and now as we're heading into 2 years that I've made that decision to really be more purposeful, more intentional in my time with my family and in my activities. And super funny to think that I would actually do this. I actually did think I would do this back in December of 2022, is that I would be done with work. You see, I've worked my whole entire life. Since I was 12 years old, I've been working. And even when my children were born, I went back to work as soon as I could after that 6 weeks. And I didn't just work a little bit. No, I went back to working 60 plus hours a week. I didn't see them. And I was so blessed that, yes, they were able to be with me in my preschool program for 3 years, but they didn't get to see me as mom. They saw me as Miss Tiffany. And then they were in, what grade were they in? 3rd grade. And I was losing them, So I'm excited. Big tangent. I'm excited to share with you guys a little bit about what this looked like as I started to step into it, how you can start taking these little actions and how they build up over time. It's not all of a sudden you're going to be this whole complete new person, that you're going to have a new way of doing things. I still have bad habits that creep up on me, like the fact that I do enjoy working. That's hard for me to find that balance. I love having a purposeful life. I love going out there and serving my community in what I do. And sometimes I can let that take priority over my family. So that's something that I am definitely still working on. I'm still figuring this out. And for me right now, it is particularly hard because I work in community, and community hours, well, they're whenever people need you. And so learning to say, for me, or to send a message, or to simply not respond because my office hours are closed and I'm currently in family mode, that has been a challenge. It definitely is hard, and especially when I do not like to leave messages unresponded, conversations not closed, things lingering in the air, going over the weekend, that's even harder, which is why right now, Monday, I already have completed 5 hours of work this morning while sitting in my pajamas. And like I said, I'm on my 4th cup of coffee. So woohoo! I'm not great at it, but I am learning. And I knew that over the weekend, I couldn't work all weekend. It wasn't good for me, and it definitely was not good for my family. And so instead, I shut it down, closed it off, even though there were some tasks that were hanging on late Friday afternoon that needed to get completed because I'm not in the office. It's out of hours. I'm focused on family time. So instead of responding to those emails and scheduling, I went to the hot springs with the kids, right? So that's going to bring me to this really exciting tip and point. Make sure you're writing this down. How can you actually schedule and plan for that family time, that purposeful time where you're going to be present, and make sure that it connects to your values? So for instance, one of our family's values are nature, outdoors, and being together. And so what that looked like this weekend is, instead of allowing myself to have free time that I could fill with doing work, because there's always work to be done, right? I said, no, We are going out. We're going to be together. We're going to be away from the electronics because they cannot go into the hot springs. And we're going to be outdoors. We're going to be enjoying the deepest geothermal pools in the country. Thank you, Pagosa Hot Springs. And we're just going to be together. We're going to connect. And the kids loved it. I loved it. It was beautiful to just go and do some swimming time, some hot tub time, watching the kids jump into the river and do the cold plunge. They are brave. I am not. I simply was standing there holding their towels, drinking the virgin pina colada. Great time to just be together. And like I said, cut off the work. Now I want to say that not everything is going to go smoothly, and it's not going to go as you have planned. So for instance, I've been having the kids write down something they're grateful for, and my husband and myself something they're grateful for each evening or morning if we forget to drop it in the jar. And my son is not interested. He already did it. My husband, he's like, yeah, this is silly. And I've been pushing them on it. I'm like, please, I just want you to put them in here so we can read them together. It'll be really sweet. And that's okay. It is a strange practice for them to put it into something, number one, that they know we're going to read. And for me to ask my husband to join in on it, that's a little tricky too. And I am definitely looking forward to see what he wrote, because sometimes he can be a little bit of a smart, and my son too. So we'll see. I'm excited though. I know that we've been getting it done, and we're attempting. We're getting close enough, and that's all that matters. Now that I feel like I have completely talked in circles, let's jump into those actionable steps, those things that you actually can start doing today, tomorrow, and over the next couple of weeks to turn on that mindfulness. And you can do all of this without going anywhere, without purchasing anything. It's beautiful. So the first exercise that I want to share with you is called square breathing. And I'm sure you have heard about this because it is super easy to remember. It's one of the core practices that many of our mindful gurus teach. And it's really where I go when I'm about to lose it because it is so simple to remember. I actually started doing this each day as I was taking my kids to school. I realized that I was super short-tempered. We weren't having great car rides, and it's 30 minutes that we would have a car ride. And so what it looked like in the morning is I would drive them to school, and as we were driving, when it was silent, I would super duper hard focus on doing the square breathing. And I'm going to explain it here in just a second. After I dropped my kids off at school, they would leave the car. I would literally sit in the line for an extra couple of minutes and do 2 to 3 square breaths again. Then I would drive off. I'd be at the stoplight waiting for the stoplight to change so I could go to work. Again, I would do another set of those square breaths. And throughout the day, I would continue to do that. I made it intentional that whenever I was at a stoplight, I was going to pause because it tells you to stop, right? And I was going to do those square breaths. And that was going to be my first cue to make it a habit, to make it easy for my body to go there, for me to remember what to do. And as I practiced it more and more, and as you practice this more and more, your body is automatically going to be able to go there and be like, whew, I need to come back to center. Okay, so what is a square breath? Super simple. I want you to imagine a square, okay? We're at the top of the square on that top left corner, okay? We're going to go to the right like you're reading. So you're going to go to the right and you're going to breathe in for 4 counts. Then at the next corner, you're going to go down and you're going to hold that breath for 4 counts. At that bottom corner, you're going to again exhale for 4 counts. And then when you get back, you're going to hold it, exhaled, for another 4 counts. Go back up to the top and you repeat it again. So it's super easy to remember, right? You breathe in, you hold. You breathe out, you hold. And repeat, and repeat. And you can even count to 4 while you're doing your breath in, count to 4 while you're holding, 4 while you're exhaling, and 4 while you're holding again. And I'll tell you what, this helps you when you are in a checkout line and your kids really, really want to get the candy bar and you're not going to get them the candy bar. This helps you when you pick up your kids and immediately they've got meltdowns coming and you just got off of work and you don't know how to respond yet because you're still trying to figure everything out. This will help you just to take a pause, to stop, like at that stoplight, and reset. All right, we are going to jump into tip number 2, and that is called a 27 breath reset. And I'm actually going to link down below a resource to a guided meditation that talks all about this 27 breath reset. And it's a little bit more than what I actually do. This is a 27 breaths in and then a 27 breath countdown down. So you're getting a whole 54 breaths. But this one really is a game changer for me when I am emotional. When I have flipped that lid and any response that I'm going to give is going to come out emotionally and not in a good way. This really helps you to reset your brain if you give yourself enough time to complete all 27 breaths. You need that time to stop thinking with your fight, flight, freeze brain. Okay, so what this looks like is when you notice it, you're literally just going to count taking 27 breaths. Don't say anything. Don't write anything. If you need to walk, that's okay. Go ahead and take those 27 breaths before you respond. One of the prime times for me to use this is when I am in a heated discussion with my husband. And he said something that pushed my button and I'm ready to push his button right back. But I pause and I take 27 breaths. And by the time I get to number 27, I realized that what I was going to say is not what I really wanted to say. And it is definitely not what I needed to say. So I'll link that down below if you want to see that full guided meditation. Again, this is a simple practice. And just do it when you're getting those big emotions. Remember, 27 breaths, 27 breaths. I can count to 27. And this is not huffing and puffing, okay? This is calm, easy breaths. You can count in your head. I don't know if my husband knows that I've actually been doing this a lot with him, but it's a really, really great tool. If you've been following me along in this podcast, if you know me in person, you know that I can be super emotional, I can be super passionate and super heated. And this one activity helps me from turning into the Hulk. So try it out. Let me know what you think. I'd love to know if you like the 27 breaths or if you like the square breathing. What's your jam? All right, the last practice that I'm excited to share with y'all is surprise gratitude journaling. I feel like I talk about it all the time. But there is science that goes into it, and it is just an amazing piece that's really going to help you. Now, you could do it every night before you go to bed. I really like to do it in the morning. It helps me to set my brain on fire for a positive day. So in the morning, it's one of the first activities that I do is I'm going to write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. Some days it's really big stuff like being able to make a brand new recipe with my family. Some days it's something small like I didn't spill my coffee today, which is very rare. But both of them do count, right? So take your journal, set up a time of day when you're going to do it, or maybe you don't have a journal. That's okay. Take your phone, open up the Notes app. Take your phone and send yourself a message. Like, don't let there be a barrier on why you aren't getting this done. I would even suggest if you are having a hard time putting this into your daily routine, set an alarm somewhere where you can spend 3 to 5 minutes to do this. It doesn't have to take long. You don't really need to have anything, just something to write on. I do personally recommend that you're actually writing with a writing utensil, not typing, but as long as you're doing it, that's great. All right, so let's get nerdy for just a minute because I want to help you understand why mindfulness actually works. And this is not just at the top level, but we're going to go and we're going to talk about the brain and we're going to talk about the body as well. So I'm going to break it down in these 3 areas. Number 1, breathing techniques. Number 2, the fight, flight, freeze response. And number 3, gratitude journaling. So let's start with breathing because that is what I started with when we were talking about this episode, and it's the easiest tool that you have. Trust me, you're going to want it handy, it's easy to remember, and you're going to be like, I can't believe I just eased a meltdown that normally would have been an hour long. Okay, so when you're stressed, your body's sympathetic nervous system actually kicks into high gear. That's your fight, flight, or freeze response. That's your body saying, danger ahead, watch out, all hands on deck. If you can think of the movie Inside Out, Inside Out, that's when everybody's like, no, what do we do, where do we go? And everybody's trying to take control of the keyboard, right? This was super useful back when we needed to be able to respond immediately to threats coming. But today, the danger that we see could easily just be that you're late to your appointment. And breathing is like this secret little hack to calm the response. When you take slow, deep breaths, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's natural rest, digest mode. You can think of it as the opposite of the fight, flight, freeze mode. Here's the cool part. Breathing deeply signals your brain that you're safe. You're actually slowing down your heart rate, you're lowering your blood pressure, and you're decreasing your cortisol, that stress hormone. And when your brain is feeling safe, you can actually think clearly again. But I want to go back. It's kind of like this interconnected relationship that we really have to understand and be aware of. Your body is telling your brain you're okay. Your body is in control of taking those deep, slow breaths. Your body needs to do that before your brain says, whew, I'm okay. So again, remember, you could try those simple exercises like breathing in for 4 counts, breathing out for 4 counts, or maybe you want to do that 27 breaths, right? Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper and let's talk about what is the fight, flight, freeze response. And there's another one that you might have heard of called the fawn response, which is interesting. Definitely want to talk more about that at another time, but we're going to talk about why it is that it actually disrupts us in the middle of what we're doing and causes that huge traffic jam that literally stops everything that we're doing and distracts us from the original mission. This response is actually hardwired into our bodies, into our brains, thanks to that fun little friend called the amygdala. It's a little almond-shaped part of your brain that actually acts like your body's alarm system. You could almost think of it shaped like a bell, right? And when the amygdala bell senses stress, it sends out an SOS to your entire body. You can feel your heart rate increase. You can feel your muscles tense up. For me, it's my hands. I squeeze my hands, or maybe I notice that my jaw is clenching. Your breath is usually pretty shallow or fast. And this is really good if you are, in fact, running from danger. But this is not so good when you are driving in the car trying to get everyone to where they need to be on time. In fact, you could say that it's dangerous. So here's where mindfulness comes in. This is where those practices like taking those square breaths at the stoplights or simply counting to 27 and taking strong, deep breaths, those are essentially soothing your amygdala, giving it a little massage, and turning down the volume on that alarm. I can just imagine like Joy on Inside Out over there getting on top of Anger's shoulders and being like, "Woo-sa, breathe, breathe," right? Just calming him down so he's not pushing all the buttons. Over time, consistent mindfulness and practice strengthens your prefrontal cortex, another part of your brain up here on the top. This is the part of your brain that's responsible for decision making, empathy, self-control, emotional regulation. You are helping when you calm down, when you relax that amygdala and that alarm. You are helping to strengthen the bridge between I'm panicking part of your brain and the let's handle this calmly part. Now let's jump into gratitude journaling, which I think of as the icing on this cute little mindfulness cake that you want to enjoy. And if you don't like cake, think about your favorite dessert or something else that you like that's similar. Okay, this practice is super simple, but it is incredibly powerful, and it's just taking that time to reflect. And here's how it works. When you are thinking about those things that you are grateful for, those activities actually trigger the brain's reward system, including the hypothalamus and the ventral tegmental area. Whew, big words. Well, these are the parts of the brain that release those feel-good chemicals that we love, like dopamine and serotonin. Ooh, did you hear that? Dopamine. So instead of grabbing your phone for that dopamine rush, why don't you grab your pencil and do a little gratitude practice to get that dopamine rush the same, to change your brain, to change your habit. These chemicals are so important because they don't only help you feel better, but they reduce your stress, they improve your mood, and guess what? They actually help you to sleep a little bit better too. We all know sleep is a huge part of the equation, right? And it doesn't stop there. When we practice gratitude, we're also strengthening the relationships, making us more empathetic and more connected to those around us and to the world around us. It's going to shift your focus away from what's going wrong to what's going right. And this is a huge perspective shift that I know we often need as parents. We were watching Young Sheldon, which is super funny. If you like The Big Bang Theory, Young Sheldon is a great show to watch. And we were watching one part, and the mom was so overwhelmed. She's like, "I'm the worst. She doesn't like me, da 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 da." And it's so easy to get into that negative head state, that spin, especially when you feel like you're failing the ones that you were made to take care of. And this is a great way to spin it around and to see all the things good that are going on. Like, yes, I am having a hard time soothing my baby, but I sure am thankful that I have this family, this support group around me that can step in when I need to step back. Even the small act of just noticing that good stuff around you is going to help you reset and to keep going. All right, so let's bring it all together. We know that breathing helps us calm our immediate stress response. We understand that our fight, flight, freeze reminds us that we're not broken. It's just biology, and we have the power to change that automatic response, right? And we know that gratitude journaling rewires the brain to see the good even in the chaos. I shared that this is a practice that I've been working on longer than since 2022, definitely. But I really put in a focus on these practices to help focus and be mindful with my family. And you might be asking, does it really work? And the answer is yes, it does. But it takes time. It takes practice. It takes consistency. And that doesn't mean you have to do all of these things at once. It's one little thing at a time. When you are practicing mindfulness, you're calming your nervous system. You're reducing your stress. You're literally rewiring your brain to handle that stress better. It's like a workout for your mind, but without the sweaty gym clothes. So for instance, I did not want to jump full into it, but I could say, whew, at the stoplight, I'm going to do a square breath, right? Those little things that you can create a habit with, that's how you're going to be going to the gym of working on this mindfulness. Where can you plug in these activities so that you're doing it daily, so that you're getting stronger, not just physically, but inside of your mind, that bridge, those connections. They're rewiring, they're changing so that you are ready to handle stress in a new way. I just wanted to share one quick win on how I know this has worked. So when I first started this and there was a meltdown and my lid was flipped and I didn't know how to respond, I would use my quick saving grace. I'm going to call Dad. And I would call Dad, and Dad, he did not have a flipped brain. He was able to calm and collectively solve the issue. I hated that I had to do that, but I didn't even know where to go. And I noticed that while he was talking to them, I didn't have to think about how to respond. I simply was breathing. And now, here's something awesome. I rarely have to call Dad to help me out, because I know I can take those breaths before I respond. I can take those breaths and I can take the next step appropriately. All right, I have realized that we have hit the 30-minute mark, and I'm sure y'all don't want to listen to me blab that much. So here is what I want you to do. I want you to start small. Pick just one of the practices. Maybe it's square breathing, the 27 breaths, or the gratitude journaling. And I want you to try it today. And if it helps, I would love to hear about it. Go ahead and send me a voice note. Tell me how it went. And if you have questions or topics that you want me to talk more about, that you want me to dive into on a deeper level, whether that's for you as a mama, you as an educator, or the kids and how their brains actually work, send those my way too. And there's another thing. If you know a mama who needs this episode, maybe she's also feeling overwhelmed or stuck or going through emotional meltdowns and she doesn't even know which way to turn, don't let her get stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze mode. Send this over to her. Let's spread these tools and help more families to truly thrive. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and remember, you don't have to have it all figured out. Just one small step toward mindfulness, and check out how it changes things. I'll see you a little bit later this week. Woo! I'm going to be releasing a new episode on Thursday this week, starting a new schedule with 2 episodes a week. And next week, I'm going to go ahead and talk about personal growth and mindfulness and why it's important to slow down. I'm going to be talking about how in the midst of busy work and holidays, having time in nature can help us to reconnect with ourselves, with our family, and I guarantee you this is one that you are not going to want to miss. I'll talk to y'all soon, but until then, take care and keep nurturing yourself and your family.